Welcome back, YouTube. And for those who do not know me, hello. My name is Noah, and on this channel, we talk about death, true crimes, haunted people, places, and things, spiritual reparations, and how you can fuck around and find out. If you are not subscribed, what are we doing? I know you've been watching my channel. Go ahead and subscribe, boo. And if you are not following me on TikTok, Instagram, or Facebook, I will be leaving those platforms in the links down below. Follow me there as well. Before we start today's episode, I would like to formally thank my patrons, my YouTube subscribers, my TikTok followers, Facebook, Instagram, all of these platforms, because you have designed the perfect retreat. It is official. We are going to Bali in July of 2025. This retreat was very much so almost a year in the making, and we are making it happen. And it's all because of you guys. You guys designed the trip, picked the location, activities. You guys really did y'all big one. Thank you down. Now, if you are interested in going on this trip to Bali with us, I would highly recommend that you reserve your spot now, because the girlies and boys are filling these spots up super quick. It is crazy how many people have booked it, and it's very, very limited. I kept it to a size 24 group just so that I can spend time with you guys. We can do our spiritual activities without feeling like it's too many people. So it's a really intimate trip. I would highly recommend that y'all book y'all spots now. There are two pricings, one for people who are early birds and one for people that are just booking. And I only have a few more early bird spots, and you do get a discount with that. So I would recommend going ahead, using the link down below in the description to reserve your spot at the very least. Y'all ain't got to pay it off today, but reserve your spots. And I also have a third-party company that you can finance your flights as well. Y'all, come travel with me. Let's do spiritual baddie, bad boy, witches, warlock type of activities together, which include cleansing, medicine making, purification, sound healing, beach trips, playing with the monkeys. Let's do it. On today's episode, we will be talking about a very taboo topic, and that is reincarnation in children. Now, I know you've heard your granny, your mama, even some of y'all ancestors that y'all met in life say, this baby been here before. I'm one of those firm believers that some children have traveled this realm before in another life. So we will be watching some very viral TikToks of children, toddlers that could barely even speak, saying things, or parents having experiences with their children that will make you take a double look. And as always, I will be tagging all of the creators down below. If this is the type of content that you like, make sure you are giving my fellow creators a follow over on TikTok if you are over on that platform. This first video comes from an account called It's Gone Viral, and I'm almost sure that they are not the original creators. So if you know the original creator, please tag her down below. But it is of her daughter, who she always suspected was the reincarnated version of her grandmother. And I'm starting to believe that she is.
I've always thought that my daughter was my grandmother reincarnated.
The way that baby stopped whining and touched her face and said, "It's me," I promise you, I'm almost sure that this baby is her grandmother, and she is looking at herself in a toddler infancy stage and looking at herself as a grown woman when she was alive in this realm. That absolutely amazed me. This next video comes from an account with the handle PG Official, and it is a compilation of children that are early school age, I mean pre-K, maybe kindergarten, remembering their past lives, and some of their past lives actually surprised me.
I wish I could be a pirate again.
You do?
Yeah.
When were you a pirate?
I was a long time ago when you weren't alive, and then I shrunk into a little kid. And I never could be a pirate again.
What did you just say about my daddy?
I said daddy.
What?
I said daddy.
You were my daddy?
Yeah.
Oh.
So, your daddy turned into a kid.
My daddy turned into a kid?
Yeah.
Oh.
So, he didn't die.
He didn't die? Oh, he turned into Oliver?
Yeah. Jelly goose. Baby and yours a baby that took care of us.
She took care of us?
I remember that. Was that kind of your mom?
Was she my mom?
Yeah. I remember her. I just miss her.
You do?
He just died. Why?
She died?
Did your mom die?
My mom died, yeah.
Me too. My mom died.
Yours did?
When I was a baby.
Yeah.
I had parents, but they died too. I had to go.
A pirate? A mom's dad? Y'all listen to y'all children, because they say past life memories are in the first couple of years of your kids' lives. And I've been told some creepy stuff by some of my kids, so I know. Y'all listen to y'all babies. This next video comes from an account, and it's under the handle Julie Talks to Angels, and she is recalling a time that she was spending some QT with her toddler or her child, and the baby started remembering things that Julie did not.
Parents of TikTok, what is the creepiest thing your kid has ever said to you?
My son had just fallen asleep, and I was playing with my daughter, who was about 2.5 years at the time. And I was so sleepy because my son was a newborn and I was exhausted. And my daughter said, "Let's play, Mommy." And I said, "Okay, what do you want to play?" And she said, "I want to play like I'm doing your hair." And I thought, good, I can get a break. So I'm watching TV and she's combing my hair and I'm feeling so relaxed and I'm kind of out of it. And she says, "Does this feel good?" And I said, "Yes, it does. Thank you, sweetheart." And she says, "Remember when we used to do this before?" And I said, "No, I don't ever remember you combing my hair." And she literally pulled on my hair and she goes, "No, not this time. Last time when we were here, when you were younger and I was older, and I always had to comb your hair. Do you remember?" And I was in such shock that she said that, but it felt so real. And I'm convinced that we were together before.
Not her pulling this woman's hair as if she was the mama, and not her remembering her past life and her mama's past life. This next video comes from an account called Delilah Fam 5, and her daughter says something that would have scared the shit out of me. Y'all gotta hear it for yourselves.
Do you remember the day you were born?
No, but I remember when the earth would open and I crawled out of hell.
Crawled out of hell? Ma'am, who sent you? And what was it like? I have additional questions. This next clip comes from an account called 2 Kids Mama Drama, and it is about the time a woman asked her 5-year-old about her past family that the 5-year-old brought up first. And she was able to tell her mama some details that were a little creepy.
So I know I have told this.
The craziest part about that story is that she may still have siblings that are living. There are people that were born in those days that are still alive. It's just absolutely unhinged in all the most amazing ways. This next video comes from an account called Soul Sign Hypnosis, and it's of a woman telling about a time that her son claimed that he was her grandfather. These kids stressing me out.
My 4.5-year-old son just told me that before he was in mommy's belly, that he was great-grandma's husband. He went on to tell me that he bought her a car, that he bought my grandmother, his great-grandmother, his wife, whatever, I'm so fucking confused, that he bought her a red car. And he went on to tell me this story about how he bought her this red car and how he brought her outside to see it, and told me that they had children together, that they had one boy. My father was their only boy. I messaged my dad to ask him if my grandma had ever owned or had a red car. She did. My grandpa bought it for her. And it was the last car she ever drove because she wrecked it. And she hasn't drove since. And the fact that he told me all of this and like it checks out and this is information that I didn't even know. What do you do with that?
Coincidence? I think the fuck not. I don't think that's a coincidence. This next clip comes from an account called Not Becky Q. And she is telling about the time her daughter predicted that she would be an ancestor. Like the mom would be an ancestor while she continued to come back.
What is the creepiest thing your kid has ever said to you?
Okay, so thing 7,552 of the weird things my child has said to me. Last night, which she really doesn't say a whole lot of weird things now that she's getting older, but last night, we were watching a movie and she said, she's like, Mommy, I'm just so glad that you'll always be alive. And I was like, okay. She's like, no, even when you're dead, you'll still be alive because then you'll be an angel. And I was like, okay. And she's like, but not me. I don't ever turn into an angel. I always get to come back. She goes, I don't know why though. And I was just like, come back where? She goes, I don't know. I just don't think you understand. And she's like, just forget about it. Just don't worry about it.
I don't know about y'all, but that would make me extremely sad because I do not want to come back to this place. It is so ghetto and polluted. And to know that my baby would be coming back several times over while I was in the ancestral realm or in heaven makes me super sad just to think about it. This next clip comes from an account called Ride the Waves. Now, I know they're not the original creator, but this is a snippet from the Oprah show from years ago about a 2-year-old who was reincarnated and just so happened to go over the bridge that she died in
the car and she says, Mommy, this is just like where I died. Like real excited, not upset or anything, just kind of very matter of fact. And,
at 2 years old?
Yeah, she was about 2 3/4.
So then you say, honey, you didn't die.
I said, well, Leah, what are you talking about? She goes, she says, I was in my car and it fell off the bridge in the water and I died. And so I pulled off the road because I was a little stressed. And she said, and I said, well, where was Mama? And she said, you weren't with me that time. Which
this is what your 2-year-old said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she did. That got the exclamation points going. And I said, well, who was driving the car then? And she said, I was big. I could reach the pedals. And she has no clue that you need pedals to drive a car. She's 2. She's in the car seat. You know, there's like no way she could know that. And I said, well, what happened? And she described, she said, well, I wasn't wearing a seatbelt. And she is absolutely a fanatic about seatbelts. Everyone in our presence that knows us, she is going to make sure they have a seatbelt on. She will not get in the car without one. And neither will anyone else. And she said, well, I didn't have my seatbelt on, and I fell out of the car. And she said, and she put her hand up on her, and she said, Mommy, I was laying on the rocks. I could feel the rocks on my head. And she said, and see the shiny bridge. And she points up. She's looking up. And she said, see the shiny bridge and the bubbles going up. She could see the bubbles. Now, she has she has never seen television at that point in her life at all. And how would she have any knowledge of bubbles rising? You know, she doesn't swim. She doesn't put her face in the water. And she said, I could see the bubbles going up and see the sun on the bridge through the water.
This is what your 2-year-old told you?
Yeah.
I literally had to feel my own heart because it's racing. But let my 2-year-old say something like that. I'm going to believe them. My 3-year-old said some stuff to me that made me believe that she was communicating with spirits. And my heart has the same palpitations that it did back then. This next clip comes from an account called Sam Scott Pickett, and it is stitching a creator, which if you know the original creator, comment down below, tag them so I can make the proper adjustments. But it's of a little girl who recalled a time that her house was bleeding and she lived in Sand Springs.
How many kids do you have?
4.
You have 3?
I have 4.
How?
You, Legacy, Lolo, and Adrian.
But you don't have 4 kids.
Why?
Oh.
Why not?
You just don't, because I don't live with you.
Where do you live?
In Sand Springs.
In Sand Springs?
Yep.
With who?
With grandfather.
Well, when you go to bed, you're here. So, you live with me.
I know, because I stayed the night.
You stayed the night with me?
Yeah, I stayed the night every night.
Where?
At your house. Because my grandfather died.
When did your grandfather die?
Well, since our house is bleeding everywhere, inside of it. Remember, whenever our house is on the street, remember, on the street?
Your house on the street bleeds?
No, my house. My mom. She climbed up there. She turned into a monster. And she died. So now she's dead.
Your mom's dead?
Yeah. My grandfather and my mom. So now I live with you.
What's your name?
Angelie. Angelie Grace died.
Who's Angelie?
Me. That's why you have 3 kids.
Honey, I'd be somewhere having a cold cigarette if my kid told me that their house was bleeding and that they were just spending the night every night and she used to live in Sand Springs. Yeah, that's eerily creepy, but it's also amazing how these children can recall what they were doing, where they were, who they lived with before they came to this earth. This next video clip comes from an account called Megan Q1415, and she is recalling the time that her baby told her that she had been missing before, like kidnapped, missing.
I think my daughter may be reincarnated. Yesterday, she was just playing in the living room and someone said something about missing, and it triggered something for her because she said, I've been missing before. And me and my husband said, no, you've never went missing. We would remember that. And she said, yes, I have. I went missing in 1986. I don't even know how she knows what like 1986 is. I mean, she's 8, but it was random. She also kind of went into detail about the day she went missing. She said she went missing on a day in 1986. Same day she went missing is the same day she died. She also said that she had a sister and told me about how she used to play with her sister. She doesn't have a sister, not in this life anyway. She has never said anything to us about a different life or had memories of a different life or talked about a sister. I don't know if I don't know. So I'm just kind of confused, and I've watched a lot of things about reincarnation before and how kids can remember things that happened to them in past lives, even so much so that they are able to tell what their names were in a past life, where they lived. So I'm just wondering, like, do you think this is possibly something she experienced? Do you believe in reincarnation? What's your opinion?
I would have been searching every database of children that went missing in 1986 and that had a sibling, because I'm just that type of person. And like, you can't give me specific details like that and think I'm not going to research. This next clip is so adorable. It comes from an account called Orange Sheep Sam, and it is of a child, I'm assuming the creator's child, who happens to be a pandemic baby. And I did not know that pandemic babies have this theory around them that they've been here before. Watch the mannerisms of this child. No, because I low-key believe her. I had a pandemic baby, and that pandemic baby is so different from my other kids. It's like he's a little grown man. And I believe that he might have been a little grown Jamaican man somewhere because he uses me instead of I, and he has this weird accent that none of my other kids ever had. So shout out to this pandemic mom because I'm a pandemic mom and I had my son in January of 2020 and I promise you them babies is different. They not like other babies. This next clip comes from an account called King Fushi, and it's of a newborn baby sitting up contemplating life. It's absolutely a comical relief for the other content that we've already discussed, but just watch this little baby who looks so stressed out that he was born into a certain predicament.
7. 7. Mommy man. Oh. He is not slick.
Obviously, this baby is just sitting back thinking about its past lives. We don't know if it was born into a poor family or reincarnated into a poor family, but I just thought it was so funny and cute because he literally put the middle finger up like he meant it. These next two clips come from an account called True Life Stories, and it's of a TV show, I'm assuming, so I hope I don't get in trouble for sharing it, but it's of a little girl who claims her name was Daisy Robinson in a past life. And just listen to this story, y'all.
When Olivia was 2 years old, she was out walking with her mother. When her mother asked, "What time do you think it is?" and Olivia replied, 7 o'clock, then added, 1787. On another occasion, when Olivia was 2 years old, she casually said to her mother, "My name used to be Daisy." A short time later, she again approached her mother and said, "Robinson." Her mother asked what that meant, and Olivia replied, "It was my name, and that she used to be called Daisy Robinson." When she was 2.5, Olivia would often talk about past events. Her father asked her whether she used to have a different mummy and daddy, and she excitedly replied, "Yes." Another time, Olivia came up to her mother and told her, "All the air came out of here," and her mother replied, "Out of where?" And Olivia pointed to the middle of her body and said, "Here, and I died, but I don't like talking about it," and then left the room. Her mother was quite stunned because Olivia had had no contact with death other than seeing a dead frog once that her parents hadn't even told her was dead. One day after waking up from a nap, Olivia spoke to her mother again about 1787. Her mother asked her if she'd remembered any songs back then, and Olivia immediately said, "London Bridge is falling down," which was a favourite of hers. That nursery rhyme was in fact around in 1787. Another time, Olivia walked up to her mother and out of the blue said, 30 years old. Her mother said, "Who is 30 years old?" And Olivia replied, "I was when I died. I died because I didn't eat anything and then wandered away." Her mother then thought back to the voracious appetite Olivia had when she was a newborn, which could be explained by the starvation that she had suffered shortly before dying in her previous life. Olivia was eating a green apple one day and giggling to herself. She told her mother that Daisy Robinson had only eaten red apples, but now she only ate green apples. Another time she said that Daisy Robinson's mother was called Kitty. Her mother knew that Olivia did not know anyone called Kitty, neither did she. Olivia did not talk about the subject again until she was about 4 years old, where Olivia's mother figured she'd outgrown it, until they had a conversation about the death of their family dog. Olivia wondered whether the dog would come back as another dog, because she had had past lives. But then Olivia said that their dog would not be a new doggy yet, because you spend a bit of time dead first, like a few weeks or months or something. Mother asked "Is that what happened to you?" And she replied, "Yes." Mother asked where she was after she died, and she said she didn't exist. She said that she just went into thin air. She went up into the sky and broke up into bits of dust. The dust then floated all over the place. She said dying wasn't scary, and when she was dust, other people made friends with her. They were dust as well. Mother asked if she was afraid of dying. Olivia said she wasn't, but the thought of dying did make her sad because she liked being on Earth. Olivia talked about Daisy's life and where she lived in a little town. She could not remember the name of the town, but said it was in England. She said most people lived in little villages where everyone knew each other. In the little town, they sold bread, cheese and meat. Mother asked whether there was a McDonald's in the town. Olivia laughed and said it wasn't invented yet. She said they didn't have cars, only horses. She also said the money they used had the king on it, and the coins were bumpy on the edges and very flat. Olivia's mother investigated English coins from 1787 that Olivia claimed she had seen in her life as Daisy, and found that there was an imprint of King George III on them with serrated bumpy edges and were flatter than modern-day coins. Her mother decided to show Olivia a collection of English coins dating back to the 1600s, where Olivia was able to point to a 1787 King George shilling. She said she remembered. She was also able to recognise other coins from the reign of King George III. For a child of between 2 and 5 years old to remember things in vivid detail is quite amazing, because at that age they only had a limited life experience. So if she had not lived a previous life as Daisy Robinson, where did she get all the information from? Number 2, Hannah, Canada. Hannah's father had hated hockey all of his life. A previous life as Daisy Robinson, where did she get all the information from? Number 2, Hannah, Canada. Hannah's father had hated hockey all of his life, which disappointed his father because he was passionate about it, and they never really bonded because of it. Even when Hannah's father first met her mother, he said they would get on okay if she never spoke of hockey. So Hannah grew up in a family that never spoke about hockey and never watched it on TV. As Hannah was growing up, she never had a babysitter until the age of 9, when her grandmother would be a babysitter. So Hannah had no contact with anybody that could have discussed hockey with her. Like her parents, Hannah had no interest in hockey. One day when Hannah was 3 years old, she asked her father why her son didn't come around to take her to hockey games anymore. He asked her when her son had done this, and she replied, "You know, Daddy, when I was an old lady." For a couple of months, she asked about her son and seemed frustrated that he wasn't coming around. Hannah then gave details about her son, where she said he was skinny with red curly hair. She talked about how her son wore a leather coat. She also said that he drove a white car with rust on it. She would also talk about the arena, which surprised the father because as Hannah had never been to an arena and no one had ever discussed that word around her. Suddenly, Hannah stopped talking about her son and hockey games, and when her father later brought the subject up, she seemed to have no memory of them. So, what would possess a 3-year-old child, especially a family who didn't even like hockey, to imagine that she'd been an elderly woman wanting her son to take her to hockey games? Susan, United States. Susan was a clinical psychologist who from an early age regularly dreamt of being an African-American girl of 7 or 8 walking down a dirt road. Susan, who is Caucasian, grew up in a mountainous area, but the environment of her childhood dreams were different. It is hot, humid, flat, and very dusty. Susan believes it was probably in the southeast United States. As she was walking, she looks down at the dry skin of her hands and thinks they look ashy. Then a car comes along which appears to be from the 1940s, and she is suddenly pulled into the car. There were two white men in the car that appeared to be in their 20s or 30s. She remembers the bench seat, the lines of the upholstery, and the dusty floorboard. There in the car, she was assaulted and lost her life. The memory of this event is as vivid to Susan as any other event in her childhood. She also had repetitive dreams about the event. In some of them, she re-experienced the assault, while in others, she observed what happened from above. She didn't think any of the dreams were nightmares, as they were very realistic, but they frequently woke her up. Susan could think of nothing in her childhood's environment that could have triggered the dreams. There were African Americans living in her town that she grew up in, but there was no racial unrest. In discussions with black friends, they confirmed that the expression ashy was used when their skin became dry. Susan feels her vivid dreams have had no negative effect on her as she grew older, and she has had no relationship problems with her husband, nor has she suffered any anxiety problems, but claims that she has always had an exaggerated startle response.
Again, I would be Googling this information. Some things are just too specific for me to ignore, and this is one of them. You tell me your name was Daisy Robinson with all them details, I'm looking up Daisy Robinson. This last video comes from an account called Bruja Pie. I'm sorry if I said it wrong, but it is telling of the time that her daughter asked her son a very particular question. Just listen.
Parents of TikTok, twin. What is the creepiest thing your kid has ever said to you?
One day when my youngest was about 3 or 4, in the middle of doing something in the living room, whatever. It was family time, homework, something, but it doesn't really matter. She all of a sudden, out of the blue, told her brother, "Do you remember when you ate me?" And she was dead damn serious, just dead serious. Here's the funny thing, though. He chuckled, right? Which, you know, it's funny. And he's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Okay, no, hold up, time out. Time out. When the fuck did this happen?" And she's like, "Yeah, Mom, he ate me. We were really, really hungry. And I thought that we were going to die or something. And he was bigger than me, so he just ate me." But here's the funny part. She was like, "But," she did the whole little hand thing too. "I didn't want to be born a boy, so it's fine. I got what I wanted." And I'm like, what? Mind you, when I was pregnant with my son, I was actually pregnant with identical twins. Twins run in my family. Multiples run in my family, naturally. Okay. So I was excited, but I couldn't hold food down or what have you, to the point that I had to be monitored and I had to be put on IV and things of that nature multiple times a week, just to make sure I got the nutrients and stayed hydrated. And I was doing better. They wanted to do another ultrasound to make sure that the babies were okay. But when they did it, they only saw one baby and 2 umbilical cords. Like, the other umbilical cord was just hanging there with nothing else. So, you know, being a young new mom, I've watched stuff, right? I've watched TLC, Discovery Channel. I was like, oh, did they merge? Like, how is that going to work? And the doctor's like, no, actually, that happens way earlier. They did not merge. He's like, this happens rarely, but it does happen. And I'm like, what? He tells me, he's like, well, remember, you had to be monitored and put on IV and all that because you weren't getting as much nutrients that you should for you and the baby. It's like, yeah. He's like, well, it seems like the surviving child ate the other child. And I was like a damn shark? He was like, yeah, like a shark. Yeah, that sums it up. I was like, so what the hell? Like, do we need to do blood tests? He's like, no, it's fine. I mean, this baby is nice and healthy and big. I was like, oh, okay. But I never told my children that. I never told any of my children until that day. That's when I told them that story. Like, never told them any of that. I was like, yeah, so sit down. We need to have a conversation. And my youngest, she knew exactly. She's like, yeah, I know. My son, he's a boy. He doesn't talk a lot about that stuff, but he knew. But that's the funny part. She knew everything, and she was happy to come back as a girl. So there you go.
It's so funny and cute because she's like, I didn't want to be born a boy anyway. Like, boys are gross. But twins absolutely absorb each other sometimes. And as tragic as it is, This baby girl just proved that sometimes that twin ain't ready to come to this earth, especially not as the gender that she may be inside of the mom's womb. All in all, reincarnation in my book is absolutely real. These children are too small to lie. I'm sorry, they're just too young to be lying. I truly believe that reincarnation is a thing. I truly believe that some people are forced back down and some people have a choice. That's why I always tell y'all to do good and be good. Because, baby, I'm not coming back to this ghetto-ass planet. I promise I'm going to be fighting for my life as I'm coming through the womb if I got to come back to this place. I'm going to be mad as hell. That is all for today. And if you would like me to cover a topic, a person, place, or thing, let me know down in the comments or email me. I will be leaving the email in the description of this video. Again, if you would like to travel with me and a bunch of besties over to Bali next year, I will be leaving the link down below as well. And as some of you guys may have noticed, the Calls from Beyond show is a thing again. We are back and we are better than ever. So if you have a creepy cryptid story that you would like to tell me, on Tuesdays at 5 p.m., 7 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we do host the call-in show. So call me now. Let me know of any experiences that you would like to share. And as always, until next time, y'all do good, be good, and stay safe.